Coming up on today's Airborne, NASA signs an agreement with SpaceX for use of an historic launch pad. Sikorsky is poised to get a contract for the new presidential helo. And the EAA welcomes the complete B17 crew for a special flight. Welcome to Airborne on Aero-TV. I'm Ashley Hale. NASA's Kennedy Space Center's historic Launch Complex 39A, the site from which numerous Apollo and Space Shuttle missions began, is beginning a new mission as a commercial launch site. NASA signed an agreement with Space Exploration Technologies Corporation, SpaceX, for use and occupancy of the complex. It will serve as a platform for SpaceX to support their commercial launch activities. Under a 20-year agreement, SpaceX will operate and maintain the facility at its own expense. Gwen Shotwell, president and COO of SpaceX, said, quote, "With nearly 50 missions on manifest, SpaceX will maximize the use of Pad 39A to the benefit of both the commercial launch industry as well as the American taxpayer," end quote. The reuse of Pad 39A is part of NASA's work to transform the Kennedy Space Center into a 21st century launch complex capable of supporting both government and commercial users. It looks like the president will be flying in a new Made in America Sikorsky helicopter. That's because it appears Sikorsky is the only manufacturer still in the running. Both Boeing and a team consisting of AgustaWestland and Northrop Grumman have dropped out of the bidding process. Sikorsky's bid for the presidential helicopter program is based on the S-92 helicopter. The Navy plans to acquire 2 test and 21 operational aircraft for the program. Sikorsky built the aging FH-3D Sea King helicopters, which are currently flying as Marine One. However, the Navy would not confirm that Sikorsky is the only bidder left in the competition. You're watching Airborne. We'll be back after these messages with more news and our feature of the day.
ADS-B will be mandatory for most aircraft by 2020 in the United States, but you can benefit from ADS-B today with the Bendix King KT-74 Mode S transponder. The KT-74 meets the global mandates for ADS-B out when attached to a suitable WAAS GPS. Over the past 2 decades, no resource has compiled as much expert-valued information about the sport plane world than the Sport Plane Resource Guide. Over 1,500 pages, hundreds of aircraft, dozens of how-tos and directories. All this and more will be coming to the sport aviation world soon with the new, all-electronic and updatable Sport Plane Resource Guide for your iPad, iPhone, Kindle, tablet, PC, or other electronic devices. Get your order in now. www.sportplane.com.
Welcome back. If you'd like to suggest a story for Airborne, Aero-TV, our website, or podcast, drop an email to news-spy@aero-news.net. This is a reunion that nobody will forget, and EAA's B17G aluminum Overcast was at the heart of the gathering. On April 14th, 10 World War II United States Army Air Corps veterans who represented all 10 Flying Fortress crew positions from pilot to tail gunner were brought to Oshkosh to be reunited with the aircraft in which they helped to preserve liberty and freedom. Their ages ranged from 90 to 94. The veterans and their family members arrived in the morning at the EAA AirVenture Museum and were given a police escort to EAA's Weeks Hangar, which is located on Whitman Regional Airport. When they saw their names were affixed to their former crew stations, the memories began to flow. To cap off the day, EAA pilot Sean Elliott took them all for a ride in EAA's B17. "It's just wonderful," said Captain Bob Abrisk of Milwaukee, who piloted B-17s with the 398th Bomb Group. Quote, "I love the airplane. It has a great record, was nice to fly, and very well built. Thanks for a real nice ride," end quote. And we at ANN say thanks for what you did for all Americans. It's Friday at last, and that means it's time for ANN's editor-in-chief to check in with his weekly barnstorming commentary. This week, Jim shares his excitement and pleasure at being involved with the X Prize competition. He's chronicled his adventure in a new, soon-to-be-released book, Beyond the Blue. Here's this week's barnstorming.
Thanks, Ashley, and hi, folks. Well, I want to get away from the politics today and talk to you about a project that we've been working on for quite some time. And it represents the tip of the spear, if you will, for about 8 different projects that will be coming out over the next year or so that will ultimately lead to an extraordinary enhancement both for Aero-News and Aero-TV and its mission, as well as some projects we want to undertake that will directly benefit the world of aviation. Let's face it, folks, it's not great out there, but if we're going to be able to get ahead, if we're going to be able to have an effect, well, there are things that we need to do as both an aviation enterprise, a business, and of course a news service to get ahead. And now's the time. And the nice part is this tip of the spear is starting out with one of the most exciting projects we've ever undertaken. Over 10 years ago, I met Peter Diamandis, the head of the X Prize. Greg Marinac, his friend and co-founder, introduced us at Oshkosh some time ago, and it started an adventure that, well, still takes my breath away. There are very few things in my life that top the decade that I've spent with X Prize. That has resulted in a book, and the book is called Beyond the Blue, describing what happens when you get beyond a certain point in the atmosphere on your way toward the heavens, when the blue shifts, when you leave behind the warm greens and whites and browns of Earth and start transitioning to space. Yes, beyond the blue. And the X Prize is all about transitions. It was about innovation. It was about excitement. It was about competition. It was about changing the world. And in 168 pages of a combination photo and narrative book, we've spent a tremendous amount of time showing you the excitement from an insider standpoint. I went places that even Peter Diamandis didn't go. We flew formation with spaceships. We formed the Rocket Racing League. We did zero-G mission after zero-G mission with people like Buzz Aldrin and Peter Diamandis and Greg Marinac and Burt Rutan and Professor Stephen Hawking. And it went far beyond that to the X Prize Cup, the Google Lunar X Prize, and so much more. This book is one of the most extraordinary efforts I've ever undertaken. And I got to tell you, I think you're going to be very pleased. But we're going to be introducing this thing probably the first day of Oshkosh. There's an awful lot going on with it. But I'd like to get your support for what we call the Premier Edition. The Premier Edition will be a limited run, 1,000 or so, maybe a little more, hopefully a little more, of signed, numbered, and certificated books that will come in a special box with a certificate of authenticity and a few other things. It's going to cost $100. And the reason it's going to cost $100 is it's going to pay for a lot of X Prize programs that I'm desperate to undertake, things I want to do to see the world be a better place, to see the excitement of X Prize go further than it's been already, and specifically some programs that I've got in mind for kids. So, yeah, it's a $40 book. Why pay $100 for it? Well, it is a collector's edition. It will be signed and numbered and certificated. And most important of all, once we pay all the bills, it's going into really great stuff, I promise. At any rate, go to www.kindredspirit.com on Monday. You'll see a link there to where you can order. And the sooner you order, the lower your number, and the better you stand in the terms of a collector's edition. We hope you'll be a part of it. If not, there's another place where you can sign up for the straight book, $40 plus shipping, and we hope you'll order it as well. This is something I'm immensely proud of, folks. I hope you will be too. I hope you'll support it. And most important, I hope you'll support the mission that we're undertaking again and furthering the extraordinary things that X Prize started over 10 years ago. For the Aero-News Network, Airborne, and Aero-TV, I'm Jim Campbell.
When 5-year-old Braden Mitchell was diagnosed with cancer, Braden's mother, Christy, kept people posted on Braden's condition on a Facebook group called Braden's Backers. But this is only part of the story. Braden's father, Second Lieutenant David Mitchell, died in a pilot training mission just before the boy was born in 2008. And when his fellow airmen heard about the trials Braden and his mother were going through, they made a decision to make a visible statement on Braden's behalf. In February, 90 airmen deployed to Shindat Air Base, Afghanistan, decided to shave their heads for Braden. It's since spread to Air Force bases on 2 more continents. More than 400 airmen have shaved their heads in support of Braden. It's even reported that a handful of women also shaved their heads. All of us at ANN wish the best for Braden, and we salute his supporters. Airborne is brought to you by some of the best sponsors in the aviation business. We'll be right back after these messages.
Redbird Skyport is a multifaceted aviation laboratory charged with developing innovative solutions to the issues facing the industry.
It started out as a vision for a laboratory where we could objectively measure the systems and the processes that we were developing. Being able to put some objective measures behind the anecdotal evidence that we have about the value of motion and the application of this technology is very, very important, because until we can objectively measure it and play that data back, we can't design training systems that make the best use of it.
For more information about Redbird flight simulations, as well as Redbird's new Skyport, visit www.redbirdflightsimulations.com or www.redbirdskyport.com.
Welcome back. Well, we've all had one of those days when we probably would have been better off if we just stayed in bed. That's probably the case for the Southwest airline pilots that landed at the wrong airport in Branson, Missouri last January. The Associated Press reported that both pilots had been placed on paid leave following the incident, which saw them land their Boeing 737 at the much smaller Clark Airport rather than Branson Airport. Now we hear from the airlines that the pilot serving as first officer on the flight has retired, while the captain of the flight has been returned to flying status. Southwest declined to identify the pilots, but said both had been flying for the airline for at least 12 years. The remains of a U.S. serviceman lost during World War II have been identified and are being returned to his family for burial with full military honors. U.S. Army Air Force 2nd Lieutenant Vern L. Gibb of Topeka will be buried April 23rd in Leavenworth, Kansas. On October 23, 1945, Gibb was the pilot of a C-47B Skytrain aircraft, carrying 3 crew members and 2 passengers, that was lost on a flight from Burma to India. In May 2002, the Joint POW-MIA Accounting Command received human remains that had been turned over to the U.S. Defense Attaché in Rangoon, Burma. Gibb's remains have now been identified through a DNA test, which matched that of his sister. Well, that's our program. Remember to get comprehensive, real-time, 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. Please remember, Airborne is streamed 3 times a week and is always online. Join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for a new edition of Airborne. I'm Ashley Hale. Thanks for watching.